Is being a mortgage broker stressful? Is it a hard job? Is it a stressful job? Well, the answer to that is yes, it is. And I'm going to unpack that today in this video as to why it's stressful, why it can be overwhelming, especially as a new advisor coming into this space, because I think that it is, and I think we all hear it. We hear people talk about it, but I want to unpack it. I've wrote 4 things down specifically. If any more come to mind, that's the case. But that's what we're going to talk about. If you've got any questions during this, please chuck the comments, in the comments. There you go. And I will try and answer them in the comments. Or if it's a really good question, needs more depth, I'll answer it in another video coming up as well. So that's kind of the goal here. So let's talk about the stress in no specific order, why I think it's stressful. So the first thing is time management. So when you become a mortgage broker, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving parts happening. And there's only 24 hours, a certain amount of time, not 24 hours in a day, but you don't have 24 hours to do it. You got to sleep, you got family. So you got all your personal stuff happening outside of that before you even come close to talking about the other stuff you need to do. And so if you think about it, you've got packaging cases, you've got seeing clients, you've got researching cases. So packaging is one thing, putting it all on and doing the admin of it, but then you've got researching it if it's a tough case. You then have CPD, which is continuous professional development, which is a requirement by the FCA. So you've got to do that. You also have to do marketing, lead generation, client retention if you've been doing it for a long enough period of time, trying to make sure that you've got your stuff that is keeping old clients engaged so they're going to come back to you. You've got, gosh, if you're going to do networking, you've got that. Alongside lots of other things. There's so much stuff. And so I think the biggest bit that people don't realize, especially when you're brand new as well, you've got to learn it. You've got to learn the knowledge, learn everything. It's all completely new. And if you're a self-employed broker going new, it's really overwhelming because you are going to have to learn that stuff straight out the bat whilst also worrying about the income side of things. So it is a pretty stressful situation, to say the least. Now, that's the first thing that you got to be aware of. Now how do you overcome that, by the way, with time management is a default diary. Be in control of your time, be in control of your diary, be in control of stuff, and do not overcommit. That's the first thing. You do not overcommit to stuff. Remember that you will have, you will get better. As time goes on, you are going to improve. This is not forever. What's the saying that I love, which is this too shall pass? It will pass. You will be fine. It will be okay. You just have to get through that and understand that. We've all been there. When I first started out, I remember just thinking, I'm never going to do this. This was going to kill me when I was at Connell's. And it caused me a lot of stress, but I learned to get over it. You'll be fine. The second point is outcomes that you can't control. So if you're someone who's a bit of a control freak, you cannot control the outcomes really when it comes to mortgages. And you get people who say they can, I'll get your mortgage. Or I had someone who speaks to me often, they'll go, look, I know that people who work with me, they never get a decline, but you physically cannot do that. It's impossible. You don't know what's going to happen. You just don't have those things in your control. So outcomes, for example, being that there is, the client can lie to you. People lie. That's what happens. It happens more than you'd think. Not always, so don't think everybody's lying to you, but it does happen. Sometimes I'll forget. And you'll submit the case. You think it's correct. You've done everything. And then all of a sudden something out the back comes in. And it's hard and stressful for that. The outcomes that you can't control, for example, is and it happens, this one happens where, Mr. and Mrs. come in for an appointment with you. Mrs. then leaves, and Mr. says, "Hey, just so you know, I've been running like payday loans, and I've got a bit of a gambling problem." She doesn't know, but can we keep that quiet? And the answer is no, we really can't, because it's gonna come up. Obviously, you're not going to tell them, but you need to tell them. This comes up. I remember that vividly with somebody who was a family friend of mine, whose brother came to me doing that exact situation, and it was that was stressful, really stressful, because he was a good friend. And hard, difficult situation. So those are the type of situations that exist, and they come up, and they will come up, and you have to learn to realize, I just got to let go of that. It's the same with me with coaching. I have to let go of the fact that, look, when I coach people who are established mortgage brokers who I'm helping grow their businesses as a business coach, I get to the point where I'm like, look, I can help you, but I can't control the outcome. You have to put your input in, and we also have to have an element of the market. There's stuff going on, and so when those things happen, they can be very stressful because your income and big amounts of income, because you get paid large amounts of money for each case, is dependent on that one person. So you get that person who has done, can say yes to a full protection policy. It's going to be 2, 3, 4 grand's worth of commission for you, only to find out they've got high blood pressure. Like there's nothing you can do about that. And yeah, it's stressful because $5,000 or $4,000 has just walked out the door. Like it's not easy. It's not easy, but you do have to kind of overcome that. The next one, they said, we've got lots of moving parts. So especially with the purchase, not so much with the remo, there's still moving parts. With the purchase, there are lots of moving parts. And I was lucky that I came from a background of a state agency. But if you've not come from a background of a state agency, moving parts are the whole property purchase side of it is pretty overwhelming and does add another layer of unnecessary stress. A lot of the, well, it's necessary, but annoyingly unnecessary for the broker. When you do a remo, you don't need to worry about it. And that is that there are chains. So there are people buying in sync. So there's chains of 4 or 5 people all selling their houses at the same time. And people get emotional and they get annoyed and they get angry, and you've got to deal with one solicitor and another solicitor and an estate agent, and no one really talks to each other. And if you're somebody who takes it on your shoulders to be the problem solver, which by the way is good for that. And I'm going to kind of talk about the kind of overcome of those two in a minute, of the last or the second one and this one, because I think they come together. There's lots of moving parts around it. And like I said, there's estate agents will sometimes not talk to you, especially if you've got their own in-house one. They can be quite rude, and solicitors can be incredibly rude. And then you've got this whole, it's just a whole unnecessary thing. And people can be very horrible to you on the phone. And guess what? Clients can be really rude. They will blame you all the time if it's gone wrong. You might get that, and it's not your fault a lot of the time. And if it is your fault, you own it. But if it's not your fault, they're still going to blame you anyway. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that you feel like you need to know and need to have the answer to. And that's not necessarily the case. So how do you overcome this idea of outcomes you can't control and all these moving parts? How do you overcome that? Well, I work with something for myself. I work for a framework. It's a very bad framework, but I call it a very scrappy framework. But it's good, but it's very scrappy. And I call it control, influence, and forget. So control, influence, forget. So control is everything that I can 100% control. So it means I have 100% control of the outcome and the input, so to speak. Influence is anything that I can have from 99% or 99.999 all the way down to 0.0001%. I can influence the outcome in some way. So there's those kind of scales. And then forget is where you have no influence whatsoever. So an example of that would be I can have 100% control of running my discovery call correctly. I can have 100% control of packaging my case correctly, compliantly. I can have 100% control in making content every single day that pushes towards my audience that I want to work with. I can control that because I'm in the front line of that. Influence, I cannot control, but I can influence whether someone is going to use me as a mortgage broker. I cannot control, but I can influence whether or not people are going to watch my content, resonate with my content. I cannot control, but I can influence whether somebody is going to take insurance or not. So that's an influence. And then forget would be the Bank of England just changed its base rate and lenders are putting up rates. I have no control over that and no influence whatsoever. The estate agent lower down the chain has now, the whole chain's collapsed at the bottom. You have no control and no influence over that outcome. There's nothing you can really do. So what I find with that is control, influence, forget. You should first of all focus on the controls, then you should look at the influence. Interestingly, by the way, if you focus on the controllables, the influence stuff goes up, and then just don't worry about the stuff that you have zero control or zero influence over. This is, as someone who's a bit of a control freak, it is really, really important to frame that. It helps me a lot, and it might help you a lot. I think it probably will. Then what's the other one, the stressful one? And I think we're going to end on this one because I think this is quite an important one. But work-life balance can become a real issue when this happens. So if you're going self-employed on your own or you're employed, same thing. Work-life balance is a real problem, a very real problem. And this job, like we said, there's a big time management issue. There's lots of stuff you can't really control. There's lots of moving parts. Because you can't control them, you feel like you need to control them. You don't have enough time, so you start taking time from other things. And it's very, very common to do. And I would implore you very strongly not to do that, because your family can suffer, your health can suffer, your life can suffer. And it's very, very true. And I see this all the time. In fact, not only do I see it, I've made an entire career out of coaching as a business coach, trying to rectify those specific problems. Is one of the things I do. I work with people on their sales, their marketing, their retention, and they're building a lifestyle business. For brokers who've established themselves effectively earning 60 to 100 grand, we can take them to, 150, 250, 300. But it's always addressing these 4 things that we just spoke about. Always, 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 because it's very, very difficult to get those under control. If you don't get them, because you make money. And so you're getting paid good money, and so you throw everything else out the window. But your family, a lot of times you have to remember, so with this, why did I get into this? I got into it because I wanted more work-life balance. I wanted to be able to drop my kids off at school. I wanted to be able to go to the gym during the week or during the day. I just wanted to be able to have that. I wanted to be able to, could be something silly. I had someone before. I want to be able to sit and play some video games with my son. Like, that's kind of my thing. I love doing that. And so those are the things you have to look at and remember, because stress will eat up, and it's like a death spiral. It will just continue going. If you don't focus on your work-life balance, the rest of it will get worse. And the worse it gets, the worse you will get and the more stress you will get. And a lot of the time, it is a systems problem, not a character flaw. You have to understand that. It's a systems problem, not a character flaw. So if you get that right, fix that, you'll be okay. So do I think it's stressful? Yes, I really do. It's very, very stressful, to be completely honest with you. But it doesn't have to be as stressful as you think, and you can manage that stress. And if you can work through those things I've gone through today, it will absolutely help you. If you've got any questions, chuck them in the comments. And like I said, if I'm happy to make a video on them or whatever, and you can reach out to me on Instagram. That's @AshBorland, and I'll see you in the next video.